Opening the rusty door of our rural mailbox, I pulled out the day's offering of grocery ads, pre-approved credit card applications, and appeals for donations to save the world. With a sigh, I leafed through the stack, stopping on a thin papered envelope. Its foreign postage and solicitor's return address made my pulse quicken as time slowed. Can this be it? Can this be the provision God told me to ask for? Weeks earlier, I'd received notice of a supposed inheritance from a distant relative that I'd met but once. Nah, it can't be, I frowned, shaking my head. Things like that only happen in Disney movies. Tearing open the envelope, I pulled out the single sheet it bore, and reading its message, I felt a smile spreading across my face. The brief, friendly letter mentioned an amount of unknown currency due to me. Hurrying to our old computer, I punched the number into Google's currency converter and laughed aloud at the result. God had indeed answered my prayer. Not only had He sent a year's salary, He'd added a small raise. My dear husband Jim, standing outside watering his beloved plants with a long, dirty garden hose, looked up as I bounded over to him. Letter in hand, I proclaimed, "I am going to quit my job." "No, you're not." I held it open in front of his face. "Do you know what this means?" "Nope, not a clue." He glanced at the document and turned away, shooting the hose into another potted plant. Glancing left and right, I whispered, "It's over $30,000. Whoa! He gave me a wide-eyed smile. "That's terrific, but it's not enough for you to retire." My arms flopped to my sides as my head fell to my chest. I took a deep breath and asked, "When you're done, can we talk?" "Sure," he shrugged, then dragged the hose to a new spot. Sitting at the table, tapping my foot, I soon heard the squeak of the faucet as Jim turned the water off. He opened the back door, wiped his feet, and then sat in the chair facing me. "What's all this about?" "Jim, this inheritance is a direct answer to my prayers. You know I've been struggling at work." Jim nodded and leaned back in his chair, folding his tanned arms. "One morning I asked God what I should be doing, and I believe He told me to write a book." Jim's brow furrowed. "I tried to write after work, but I was always too tired. I finally gave up and told God I couldn't do it." My cheeks flushed and my palms began to sweat. This sounded crazy, even to me. Glancing to the ceiling with a silent prayer for help, I pressed on, staring at the table. God then told me to ask Him for provision, but I didn't know what He meant. I started asking for silly stuff, like a 27-hour day or the ability to stay up later than 9 at night. Finally, I asked to be able to stay home. Stealing a glance at Jim, I continued. When that first letter came, mentioning an inheritance, I told God if He really wanted me to stay home and write, it'd need to be a year's salary. Leaning forward, looking into his eyes, I laid my hand on Jim's arm. "Hun, it's a little more than a year's salary. I need to quit." Jim leaned back, pulling away from my touch. Tilting his head to one side, he silently stared at me. He finally looked away, shaking his head. "I guess you better quit then." "Really? You're okay with that?" He exhaled a long, slow breath. "Yeah, but wait until it comes in. We don't know if it's real." "Okay, that sounds fair." I couldn't stop grinning.